Hey, welcome everyone on this October 7th, 2024. Wow, it's been a year. Anyway, good coffee today. Glad you could join me. I've got a I think it's fun, interesting topic to talk about today. We'll get to that in just a second. Just as a reminder, we're on the road to 420. That's right, 420 followers over on Rumble. What are we at right now? 313. Okay, so we're up one. Let's keep it going. Based on what I'm talking about today, okay, just remember that. That's why it's important that you follow on some other platforms as well. But my name's Tom Coffey. We're at Coffee and Nuance. You can follow me everywhere, including Rumble, rumble.com/coffeenuance/live. But today we are going to talk about this idea of censorship collapse. Oh, what does that mean, Tom? I've never heard that term before. It's because I made it up. But I think it makes a lot of sense. So, and we're live. We got people on both YouTube and on Rumble. We're also on X. But apparently no one's watching right there yet. Anyway, let's talk about censorship collapse. We got to talk about something near and dear to the hearts of our beloved elites. Control. Ah, yes, control. For decades, these elites thought they had it all figured out, spoon-feeding us narratives while we just sat there like, yeah, that sounds good. But then this little thing called the internet showed up, and oops, the mask slipped off. Now they're scrambling to keep their grip on our collective brains. I call it censorship collapse, and boy, it's about time. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Tom, what the hell are you talking about? We still have free speech, right? Sure, technically, we can say whatever we want as long as it doesn't upset the very delicate sensibilities of certain people with penthouse views. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for fact-checking, but the problem is we've crossed into some weird Orwellian zone where they're not checking facts anymore. They're policing narratives. And you know who's itching to tighten the reins on your little Twitter fingers? That's right, Hillary Clinton. Yeah, the same Hillary who said, and I swear, I'm not making this up, if we don't moderate content on social media, we lose total control. Total control. I mean, I thought calling Trump supporters deplorable was tone deaf, but this is saying the quiet part out loud, and it echoes from DC all the way to Davos. Now, let's unpack this. We lose total control? Who's we, Hillary? It's definitely not we, the people. No. It's more like we, the elites, the censorship blob, that cozy cabal of big tech, big government, and corporate media, all sitting together like that the world's least fun slumber party, braiding each other's hair and deciding what we can see, hear, and think. And they're scared, folks. Oh, they're scared. Look at the panic when Elon Musk bought Twitter, or X, what we're calling it now. They acted like he bought the keys to the White House. I mean, John Kerry even whined about the First Amendment being a block to silencing misinformation. John Kerry, the guy whose Botox looks more free than his free speech policies, they're terrified because for once, they don't own the narrative. People aren't listening to just them anymore. Let's be honest. This isn't about stopping disinformation. It's about losing control. The censorship blob is like a toddler with a toy. You take it away and suddenly there's a meltdown. But how will we convince people that Hunter Biden's laptop is a Russian hoax? Or that Biden's cognitive health is just fine? Or one of my personal favorites, that inflation isn't real? Don't worry. Your grocery bill is just having a little growth spurt. Look, I get it. When you spent decades spoon-feeding the public pre-approved narratives and people suddenly start thinking for themselves, it's terrifying. But it's happening. Censorship collapse. And if you listen carefully, you can hear the faint sound of their grip slipping. When you open a pickle jar and it's so close, but it won't pop. Yeah, that sound. Now they're doubling down. Hillary's out here calling for the repeal of Section 230 because apparently the only thing standing between her and a dystopian paradise where everyone agrees is some 1996 law that gives social media platforms immunity from being sued for what users post. I mean, sure, let's repeal Section 230. Then we can all enjoy the kind of free speech that happens in North Korea. Oh, you didn't like the government's latest policy? Well, have fun in the gulag. It's not just her. We've got this whole gang of thought leaders. You know the type who think that moderation means controlling everything. They're not satisfied with taking down violent content or hate speech. No, they want to scrub anything that questions their worldview. It's like that one guy at the party who hogs the playlist and won't let anyone else pick a song, just constant Nickelback. I kid. Nickelback's great. Watch the documentary. But here's the kicker, folks. They can't win, not anymore. The genie's out of the bottle, the toothpaste out of the tube, whatever metaphor you want to use. The information age is here, and they can't silence everyone. Sure, they'll try. They'll deplatform, demonetize, and censor, but we're living in an area of censorship collapse. The more they clamp down, the more people wake up and say, wait a minute, why are you trying so hard to control what we hear? Because, folks, here's the deal. Control doesn't equal truth. Censorship isn't about protecting us from lies. It's about protecting us from knowing the truth. So, Hillary, I have some bad news. You said it yourself. Without censorship, you lose total control. Good, because this is America. No one's supposed to have total control, least of all the people who've been lying to us for years. My name's Tom Coffey. This is the Coffey Nuance Show, the most incredible censored commentary and news show live. Right now, flame on. Oh, man, we got a massive audience today. Wow. Yeah, I agree with every comment right now on both YouTube and on Rumble. Yeah, cheers. I'll go through all of those in the after show, but I just want to talk about this idea called censorship collapse. And I'll have another AI podcast to kind of explain it a little bit better. But here's the basic gist of it, right? Censorship collapse is this idea that elites rely on censorship to maintain control of public narratives and information flow. And if and when the censorship breaks down, whether due to technological advancements, shifting public attitudes, or platforms like social media that promote free speech, elites lose their grip on power. And without the ability to suppress dissenting opinions and control narratives, their influence, it erodes, leading to a more open and unpredictable discourse where traditional power structures are challenged. That is what I call censorship collapse, and it can't come soon enough. Who's with me? So anyway, you may have noticed in the last week, I keep playing these little Notebook LM podcasts. And I did the same thing today. I wrote a paper. See, if I had a Substack and if people were following what I was writing, which no one is, then I would say, oh, for my Substack today. But I just wrote it for myself, I guess. But I uploaded it to Notebook LM, and they came up with a podcast to talk about this idea of censorship collapse. This one's kind of fun because I actually credited myself. And Coffey, the last name of Coffey is a little unfortunate because when you're listening to the people talk about me, right, they mention coffee and you might think the drink and it gets confusing. But it is what it is. Anyway, so I want to play for you this little podcast that was made with AI. So let me, yeah, the audio that's going to play is created with AI, but I think it does a good job of going through and explaining this idea of censorship collapse. And this whole video is an example that you can show your friends if they don't believe what AI can do now. This today's show is a perfect example to show them what it can do. So if you've never seen my show before, here's what's going to happen. I came up with this idea. I call it Censorship Collapse. As far as I know, no one else has called it that in the universe. I just wanted to come up with an idea, right? And I kind of outlined in the monologue what my idea of censorship collapse is, and how when they lose control of censorship, then they lose control of everything, and it will be a collapse of their power. Okay, so what I did is I took this paper, I wrote on it, and I uploaded it to Notebook LM, and they made a little podcast about it. Now, the voices are not mine. I didn't create the voices, nor did I create the script. This was all done on the fly in the matter of probably less than a minute with AI, and I think it's pretty interesting. So let's see. Let's check it out.
Ever scroll past a headline about like some social media platform, I don't know, suddenly banning a bunch of accounts, and you're just like, hold on, is that censorship? Or maybe you see some politician on TV ranting about fake news, and you're left thinking, well, who gets to decide what's fake?
Right.
So if any of that sounds familiar, well, you are in the right spot. Because today's deep dive, we are tackling how the whole game of information, how it's controlled, is being like totally reshaped.
Yeah.
We're cracking open Tom Coffey's Censorship Collapse.
Yes.
Which argues that the rules of free speech, they are changing like crazy right in front of us.
And that's what Coffey does so well in this book, is he ties that idea of free speech to like the very core of how power works.
Oh,
it's not just, can we say whatever we want? It's more like, who benefits when certain people are told to be quiet?
It's like that part in The Wizard of Oz, when they finally pull back the curtain.
Exactly.
And you see what's really going on.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Coffey's doing with censorship here, showing us how it might not be about protecting us, but maybe about protecting those in power.
Yeah, and he calls this whole thing censorship collapse, meaning like the more elites lose their grip on information, well, their power, their whole system, it starts to crumble.
Wow.
It's a bold statement for sure. And to get it, we need to think about how things used to be, back the day.
Okay, so paint the picture for me.
Okay, so picture this. A world where like a tiny group of newspapers, TV channels, they decided what everyone saw, what they heard, what they even believed. They were the gatekeepers, plain and simple.
Total gatekeepers.
And yeah, a lot of those gatekeepers are still around, but then the internet happened. Social media, especially, totally flipped the script. Now anyone, anywhere with a connection, they could be a publisher, a commentator, even a pain in the neck to those old narratives.
Right. You don't need to ask permission anymore.
Exactly.
And that is where I'm guessing the powerful people, they start to get a little nervous.
Because think about it. You, listening right now, you have a voice. And if those in charge can't just silence the people who disagree with them like they used to, well, Coffey argues that is what's causing a lot of anxiety in those fancy offices and government buildings.
It's unsettling, right, to have that control challenged.
And Coffey, he uses a quote from Hillary Clinton about social media to really illustrate this point.
Okay, what did she say?
She warned that without stricter controls, quote, we lose total control. That phrase, that's the heart of this tension, right?
Yeah, lose control. I mean, wow.
Yeah, that's a loaded phrase.
It is. And that's where Coffey, I think, gets really interesting. He's saying that moderation, that word they use, it's often just a nicer way to say censorship.
Yeah.
Especially when it's used to shut down ideas that make powerful people uncomfortable.
Right. It makes you wonder, like, if you really believe your ideas are right, if you're so sure, then why work so hard to silence everyone who disagrees?
Yeah, good point.
Coffey suggests that it's because this might be more about holding on to power than it is about truth,
That's a powerful argument. And he doesn't just kind of throw that out there. He points to some very specific conversations that honestly would have been unthinkable just a few years ago.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about all the debate around the origins of COVID-19.
Oh, right.
Or people questioning, established narratives about politicians. This, Coffey says, this is what it sounds like when censorship starts to break down.
Right. These are the conversations that certain powerful people, they might want to keep out of the public eye, but without the ability to easily censor, it's happening whether they wanted to or not.
So then that brings us to, I mean, you can't talk about this without talking about Elon Musk taking over Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
X, I should say.
Right.
Which, by the way,
I mean, whatever you think of the guy, you cannot deny that the way Musk decided to handle content moderation, that was a huge shift. Absolutely. Coffey, he talks about how people like John Kerry, even, they were really worried about how the First Amendment, it might not be enough to handle what they see as misinformation on platforms like, well, Twitter, or X, as it's called now.
which of course leads to that UGE question, right? What even is misinformation?
Yeah.
And who gets to decide that? I mean,
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And this is exactly where Coffey says censorship gets really risky. Like, if the only people who get to decide what's true are the ones in power, if they can silence anyone they disagree with, are we really living in a free and open society at that point?
and Coffey doesn't stop there. He says, look at all these alternative platforms popping up, places like insert examples of platforms discussed in the source material. He uses these as proof that people, they want spaces to speak freely without being censored, and they'll seek them out.
And it makes sense, right? This need for other places to go for information, it all goes back to, like, people just don't trust the mainstream media as much as they used to. And Coffey, he really digs into that whole idea.
It's true. I mean, if you feel like you're only getting like a small piece of the story, or that some viewpoints are being silenced on purpose, of course you're going to go looking for other sources,
Exactly.
which is kind of the double-edged sword of the internet, right? Like, yeah, we've got more voices and perspectives than ever before, which is amazing, but it also means you got to have your guard up. You have to really think about what you're reading and who you're listening to.
Oh, 100%. Critical thinking. That is more important now than it's ever been. We can't just accept things because, oh, it's on a website or some guy said it on a podcast. We have to be willing to ask questions, look at things from different angles, even the angles we don't like,
Yeah, be open-minded, but don't just like turn your brain off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we got to think for ourselves.
So circling back to Coffey, what's the end game with all this censorship stuff? If it's not really about protecting people, like he says, then what's the point? What's the goal?
He's pretty clear about that. It's about control.
Control. Okay.
He's saying censorship, it's not really about keeping us safe or even keeping us away from, like, bad information. It's about keeping things the way they are.
Give you the status quo.
Right. Making sure that certain people and certain ideas, they stay in charge, even if those ideas, maybe they're not the whole truth, or maybe they're even, well, let's just say not completely accurate.
So he's basically saying that censorship, at its core, it's about holding on to power.
That's the argument.
I mean, it's a bold statement to make.
It is. But think about it this way. If you get to decide what information people see and hear, you basically get to decide how they view the world, right? You have influence over what they think, how they feel, even how they act. That's power.
So then when those in power, when they start to lose that grip on the narrative, on what people believe, that's when things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And Coffey, he even lays out what this whole censorship collapse could look like, what happens next.
It gets kind of wild. He describes a world completely flipped on its head. All those traditional gatekeepers, the ones we talked about, they've lost their power.
Wow.
It's a world where everyone can question everything. Challenge the way things are, even demand that the people in charge, that they actually have to answer for, their actions.
And what does he say happens as a result of this censorship collapse? Does he make any guesses about what this new world might actually look like?
He does, and it gets kind of utopian, Like, he paints this picture of institutions and people who, for a long time, they've benefited from controlling the narrative, right?
Right.
Well, now they have to face a new reality, one where their power, it's not absolute anymore.
So does that mean, like, if we're talking about censorship collapsing, are we talking about a world with no rules? Like, just total chaos, anyone can say anything?
Not quite. Coffey, he gets that there are always going to be some rules, right? Whether it's governments or the websites themselves, or even just like what people in society find acceptable.
Sure, there are always some lines.
But he thinks the big change is going to be WHO gets to decide where those lines are and how those rules, how they're used.
So instead of it being, a small group, those gatekeepers, it'd be more like everyone has a say. We all get to decide together.
Exactly. More democratic, you could say. And that's where another big part of his argument comes in: personal responsibility.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. He says, as censorship gets weaker, each of us, we have to get better at thinking critically, or we're going to get fooled.
So it's not enough to just read a headline or watch a video.
Right. We got to engage with the information, question it, Is this true? Is there another side to this? Are they leaving stuff out? It's like we all need to be our own fact checkers now.
Which I gotta say feels kind of overwhelming. There's so much information out there.
Yeah, tell me about it. But see, that's also kind of the exciting part. We're not just stuck listening to whoever shouts the loudest anymore,
We have more power, but also more responsibility.
100%. It's like Coffee's telling us, hey, don't just accept what you're told. Go find out for yourself. Think, talk to each other, even when you disagree. And for goodness sake, don't be scared to question authority.
So where are we seeing this play out right now? Can you give us some real world examples of this censorship collapse happening?
Well, think about all that citizen journalism. People on the street, they can film events on their phones, post it online, and completely bypass the big media outlets, right?
That's true.
Or look at how social media it's been used to fuel these massive movements, the Arab Spring, Black Lives Matter. That's people finding new ways to be heard when the old ways were shut off.
It's like we're watching power change hands right in front of us. The old sources of information, they're not as powerful. And everyone else, they've got more ways to tell their own story. I don't know about you, but I find it kind of scary, but also really exciting.
Absolutely. And that's the thing with Coffee's book. He's not giving us all the answers, but he gives us the tools we need to figure things out for ourselves.
So if our listeners were to take away just one thing from censorship collapse, what would you say it should be?
This whole fight over information, it's not ending. If anything, it's just starting to heat up. And whether we win or lose, it won't come down to who can censor the best or shout the loudest. It'll be about each of us, how well we think for ourselves, how we talk to each other, and how much we actually care about the truth.
Ooh, that is some food for thought right there. And on that note, we will leave you to ponder this. What kind of information world do you want to live in? Because as Coffee shows us, you've got more power to shape it than you might think. Choose wisely. Until next time, keep asking the tough questions and keep diving deep.
So, wow, that was pretty incredible. Yeah, all that was made like literally in a minute. Ox. I'll be going through all of your comments in the after show, but that's pretty incredible. And I think that today's show is an example of like, holy cow, I can't believe how how things are changing so quickly. If you've never seen that before. So this is why I think that this example is especially interesting. Okay. The whole concept of censorship collapse. There's no articles out there that are written about censorship collapse. I mean, there might be articles that might align with it, but I couldn't find anything. In fact, I came up with that term myself. And I wrote up a little paper on it, and I made it a PDF, and I uploaded that, and then it made the AI from my own thoughts and my own article that I wrote. They referred to it as a book. It wasn't that long. It was like 2 pages. So it wasn't that long. And it made that incredible AI podcast. I didn't feed it the script. It made up the script, and it had the voice actors and the whole thing. This is mind-blowing. I think if it were on something else, you may think like, oh, well, they had more sources for this. The only source was what I wrote. I just, my mind is still blown at what an incredible job this does. But think of what that can do in the idea of censorship collapse. If we're able to use these tools to expose things that maybe the powerful don't want exposed. You know, you can really make some compelling some compelling content that could get out there. Now, my content doesn't seem to get out there at all, like at all, right? I'm looking at the I would love it, right? If I can do live reads on Rumble. I need like 25 people on Rumble watching live for me even to do a live read. I don't even have that, I have half that or something. So, I think that this channel is not necessarily going to be making any grand changes in the world, but I wanted to share with you just how much you can do with the current technology. And I can do a lot more than this, with the current technology. But it's really mind-blowing. And I hope that I've inspired someone that's watching this show to decide, boy, maybe I could use it to do something compelling, to do something interesting. I don't know, to just share an opinion. But anyway, that's the idea I wanted to talk about today: censorship collapse, and some examples that might be happening right now is with the hurricane relief that's happening on the East Coast. We see two totally different narratives, just depending on where you look. The official narrative is that FEMA's doing a fantastic job, right? They got everything under control, and they're the ones that are doing good. And if you go outside the corporate media's narrative on this, you'll see the opposite. And you'll see stories of people coming together to helping their fellow man, to rescue people, to give relief. And you can now see both of those, not just what the powerful want you to see. You can now see all kinds of things. So that's why I encourage you to get out of your echo chamber, to get on some different social media platforms. Don't just be on one. Don't just be on one. You need to diversify your social media. And if you do, please follow me. You can always send me a message on other media, like on X. So I hope to see you somewhere other than right now where your comments are. But stick around. I'll go through all of your comments in the after show, and I'll be back on Wednesday with a big idea. And who knows, I might actually have some more effects and some more. I might be using technology even more than I did today in that show on Wednesday. But until then, peace. All right, here we go. Now, got to put on the glasses so that I can actually read the comments. Okay, what's up, John? What's up, Joe? LFG. Yeah, I should have some kind of LFG graphic at the beginning. Let's see if I can. See, the issue is, there we go. That's better. How this looks on the screen is how big my window is. And I always change the size of my window. And as far as I know, there's no like command to make your window in a specific number of pixels wide, so I can always have it look the same. Anyway, hashtag Rumble Gang, hashtag Road to 420, hashtag growth, hashtag content creator. Thank you, John. Joe says, it's a real shame how poorly Rumble's recommendation algorithm is. Yeah, I don't know how to get my show in front of more people on Rumble. I don't. I list my show as a vlog. I used to have it as news, but the problem is you put it in news and there's so many news channels that mine is just not on the front page, and that doesn't do any good. But I don't know how many people are scrolling through the vlogs every day. So yeah, I'm just not sure what to do there. What's up, Lucid? Joe says, I heard today that Kamala's outspending Trump 10-1. Don't know about that. Perhaps. What's up, Tom? What's up, Ian? Nice to see you. Joe, just needs some AI VTuber animals scripted to the audio file. Yeah, probably if I had some AI VTuber animals, just some avatars that I could take the audio from the show and then just have it be some cute avatar talking about censorship, it'd probably do a lot better than looking at me. That sounds like Kurt Loder's voice from MTV News. To me, it reminds me of a guy on the. It does sound a bit like Kurt Loder, but not quite. Not quite. There was a guy on Switched on Pop podcast that it sounds like. I forget his name. What's up, Rev? Bastille? Nice to see you. Joe says, part of me wonders if they fed in an interesting, controversial book, how this AI would respond to it. LOL. That'd be interesting. I don't want to get totally deleted, but that would be funny. The like and interruptions are amazing. Yeah. That is the crazy thing about this. And just think what one could do, right? I could have it make a podcast, right? I could make a show. And then if I had a girl and a guy, I could have that, and then I could have them, have it make the script. And then I could have live actors just act out that podcast. So I wouldn't need anyone smart to do a podcast. I could just get some dummies that can read. AI and Nuance, perhaps. Joe says, I love the layers of this conversation. The AI podcast is both fake but real in the idea being represented. It calls for people to think for themselves, but also provides a perspective framework. Yeah, I'm truly blown away by this AI podcast thing. It's amazing. Coffee podcast. There's an idea. The giveaway, this is AI, it's better than a regular podcast. Too perfect. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I think of it that I would not be able to speak as quickly and as off the cuff as this script that they did. All that was created in a minute. Yeah, probably it took about a minute, and then I downloaded the audio, and then I used a different AI to make the little the waveform graphic. Tom, you're the internet's best kept secret. Well, don't let it be a secret. Share this video with someone, even if they wouldn't be into my show. I think today is a perfect example of just showing people what AI can do, because most people have no idea what AI can do, and unless they actually see this firsthand, they're not going to believe it. They're not going to believe it. So you can show them this, or you could do it yourself. See, the best part of being on the bottom is there's no risk of falling off. Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised, Joe. I mean, sometimes I start the show and I have, very, very few people at all. Jim checking in from Virginia, Tom. Well, nice. Hope you're doing all right in Virginia, Jim. Sending dry vibes. Dry vibes. That's probably bad. Sending positive vibes, Jim. Have you tried OpenAI's advanced voice mode? Pretty soon you can participate in these AI podcasts. One thing I was considering doing was having an AI sidekick for the show. And to do that, my computer's not new enough. Although I could use a phone or a tablet to have the AI character. And then the issue is my phone is not new enough, nor is my tablet new enough to be able to do the live audio sidekick for the show. But I thought that would be interesting. Maybe even an evening show that was like less political and more just kind of comedy based, to have an AI sidekick. Currently, I can't do it. I'm going to need to buy some new stuff. I could actually, I think, perhaps, because I do have an incredible graphics card for the PC, I might be able to piece together a PC that would be able to do it. But I haven't done that yet. But that was something else I was considering doing, is having an AI sidekick. live, which is horrifying because they you know, I'd hate it if they were funnier than me. You know? You know, or they go off script and say something that is that would get the channel another strike. Yeah. Speaking of censorship, you know, I've got a channel strike on YouTube based on absolute nonsense. There's absolutely no reason for it. In fact, they time-stamped a video from a year and a half ago where I was talking about the Fed and printing money, and somehow that was a conspiracy theory or something. And what YouTube wants me to do is they want to re-educate me, and they want to send me through a class so that I learn what I shouldn't say, even though I didn't say anything wrong. I don't know. On general principle, I don't want to be re-educated by Google, but I may have to do that to keep the channel alive. But if I do get re-educated, then I'd make a video and share how they were re-educating me. So anyway, Tom has a Jamie as a Jamie. Advanced voice mode is pretty glitchy and mobile only for now. As far as I know, they on the new Macs that you can actually install it on the new Macs that have the silicon, like whatever, the M2 chip or something like that. I don't even know because I don't have a computer that new. But apparently you can do it on that as well. But maybe it's only on mobile. I don't have a new enough or a powerful enough phone to do that. Do the class and record it. Yeah. If I did the class, I'd definitely record the whole thing and then make fun of it and then probably get another strike. It is what it is. Anyway, hey, thanks everybody for checking it out. If you made it this far, do me a favor, hit the like button. Why not? Why not? Right? Who cares? It's free. And but I do think that this video today, share it with somebody that might not know the abilities of what AI can do, because I think that this is really a perfect example of what AI can do. And unless someone sees it for themselves, you know, there's got nothing. Hey, by the way, if anyone watching is in Portland or Tacoma and you like pro wrestling, send me a message over on X or something, just for fun. Anyway, hope you all have a fantastic day. Until Wednesday, see you then. Peace.